The Dallas Cowboys had a somewhat fraudulent run into the playoffs this year, but right after finding success for the first time in a while, they immediately erased a lot of it and seem to work backwards every time they get a step forward. So let's break down what they can do to try to fix the mess of an offseason they've already had. What's up, guys? I'm Tyler Coker, and I'm your host for today's episode of Today with Tyler. I hope you enjoy. First, we'll start with their free agents. Keanu O'Neal, the safety, Leighton Vander Esch, the linebacker, Cedric Wilson, the wide receiver, DeMonte KZ, the safety, Jaron Kearse, the safety, Randy Gregory, the edge, Malik Hooker, the safety, and Michael Gallup, the wide receiver, most of which left. So let's get into what they can do and their offense. The Cowboys paid quite a bit to have Dak Prescott as their quarterback, and while he isn't raising any questions for who should be their quarterback, he's certainly not worth $40 million. He continues to be the thing that holds back the offense. Well, next year will probably be their offensive line. Last year, it was all about, can Dak Prescott step up to the challenge and be the quarterback they want him to be? Just like last year, he got torn up by a coverage called Cover 1 Rat, which is one of the more elementary coverages you can imagine, and Vic Fangio just tore him apart with the Denver defense. So Dak Prescott has a lot to work with and still doesn't find that much success, which is a little concerning. But in the end, I do think he's a good quarterback, and they shouldn't be looking to move on, which you can't. He's being paid $40 million a year. But part of the tremendous supporting cast that he has around him is that wide receiver core, which unfortunately has gotten much weaker. Amari Cooper was their wide receiver 1, CeeDee Lamb wide receiver 2, and Michael Gallup wide receiver 3. But now, Michael Gallup came back, but Amari Cooper was traded for only a 5th rounder, and one of their key depth pieces, Cedric Wilson, also left for Miami. So all of a sudden, there's not very many wide receiver 1s in that unit. While I love CeeDee Lamb and he was on my fantasy team, he certainly isn't a wide receiver 1 in terms of true wide receiver 1 potential in the NFL. And I would really like someone to take the attention off of him so he can continue to be CeeDee Lamb instead of trying to fill in Amari Cooper's role. Added to that is Michael Gallup was very much their wide receiver 3. He's never been their number 1 target, and by keeping him, you lose a lot instead of Amari Cooper. And then added on, you don't have any depth behind them, so they are actually kind of in need of wide receivers now. Dalton Schultz was brought back as a tight end, which is very good for them because now that you've lost Amari Cooper and you've lost Cedric Wilson, you definitely need to keep any wide receiving threat you can, and that includes their tight ends. Dallas's run game kind of figured itself out this year, and neither Tony Pollard nor Ezekiel Elliott are truly stellar. They both get the job done and can punish defenses in tandem, which is just as impressive when you consider it, minus the price tag of Ezekiel Elliott. Tony Pollard is definitely a star, and Ezekiel Elliott is as well when they both are on their A game, but if one falls off, the other one hopefully can step into their place and take advantage of the opportunities given to them. The rush attack was heavily helped by their offensive line, which might see some struggling next year. Tyron Smith had another great year at left tackle. Guards Zach Martin and Conor Williams are both well above average, but now Conor Williams is on the Miami Dolphins. And right tackle La'el Collins was pretty good when he wasn't getting suspended for PEDs, but now he's on the Bengals. So a lot of really good people in that offensive line, but you need a center, and now you need a guard and a right tackle. It's not looking so hot for the Dallas Cowboys offensive line, who have really been so good for so long. And every time you think, oh, they might be injured, they might be old, they might be retiring soon, they come back and continue to be strong. But this year might finally be the year for the offensive line to fall apart, just because of age and, more importantly, depth, or lack thereof. Going to their defense, there were some struggles. Their box was well below average, and despite the breakout season by rookie Micah Parsons, who was way more than worth their pick that they got him at, the great season at the line from DeMarcus Lawrence was also good, but they were below average stopping the run in the box, which hurts in a division that really wants to lean on the run, with the Eagles, Giants, and Washington all wanting to be run-based teams. It's not a deal to have a weak box. Randy Gregory was acceptable at edge, but nothing special, and there was no interior pressure from Carlos Watkins nor Neville Gilmore. Luckily, Randy Gregory did sign elsewhere, which isn't great for Dallas when you really think about it. But, I mean, he wasn't tremendous to begin with and probably wasn't worth the price tag. They weren't helped out by the linebackers either because Parsons was extremely good, but behind him, Leighton Vander Esch and Keanu Neal both struggled mightily. Added to the lack of box help was below average play from the secondary because while Diggs had a crazy turnover rate, he allowed over 1,000 yards in coverage, which was the most PFF have ever seen and was a liability in coverage. I don't foresee Diggs recreating interceptions he was gifted this year because a lot of them were freebies from bad throws or blown routes. And in the end, Diggs only got interceptions. He's a really bad man corner who would best be a cornerback too. That's my opinion, and really a statistically backed opinion. Diggs may have played bad at the corner, but Anthony Brown also wasn't too successful at corner either, and it was evident in the Raiders game where people wanted him to get cut. Their safety core was kind of 50-50. Jaron Kearse, the strong safety, had himself a really good year and got re-signed, but his counterpart, Damontae Kazee, was simply bad. The defense has definitely a lot of talent to work with, and the pieces that they can use are extremely, extremely good, but the pieces that aren't extremely good are really, really bad. So they have a lot to work for, but they also have a lot to work with on this defensive side of the ball. So their positional needs are things like corner, defensive tackle, free safety, linebacker, center, guard, right tackle, and now wide receiver. So definitely not ideal coming in with that many needs to the draft, but they always find a way to be okay unless their offensive stars get hurt. So I wouldn't be surprised if they found a way to be okay once again. An ideal draft might go something along the lines of in the first picking Kyrie Elam or Daxton Hill. Kyrie Elam is a Florida corner who I would be cautious of because he's a sticky man corner, but Florida cornerbacks tend to have a reputation for not panning out. And Daxton Hill is a high risk, high reward free safety out of Michigan who could be really good, but could also not be worth the price tag at all. So either way, they're going with some higher risk guys, but I'd like to see them try it because in the chance that one of them turns out, they're going to get a really, really good player. In the second, someone like Fidarian Mathis, the Alabama defensive tackle, would be very helpful to help that defensive line kind of stop the run and ultimately get something going that isn't straight from the edges. And then the third, Bernard Ryman, the Central Michigan offensive tackle, since Lael Collins is gone, and you need an offensive tackle in this division because the Eagles want to have a good box and good linebackers. The Giants do as well, and then Washington has them, or at least good edge rushers and interior rushers, not necessarily linebackers. So the Cowboys have a lot to do, but I do think it's very doable. So I'd like to see what the Cowboys do for the rest of this offseason because they confuse everybody every year. This year is probably the most confusing. Thank you for listening to the Dallas Cowboys.